digital age, a 21st century casualty. Open your eyes, you're losing control. Open your eyes, put down the phone. Conditioned by misinformation, it's just the media telling us lies. Decipher fiction from the truth, society's slow and tragic demise. Open your eyes, you're losing control. Open your eyes, put down the phone. Everyone's got their fucking opinion.
Bite it, you scums. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. What's going on around the world? Who's excited about today's show? Yeah, bite it, you scums. So that said, yeah, this is going to be great. Good to see everybody. I see everybody's pouring in at an alarming rate. So we're grateful and excited for that. And yes, Zook, I'm going to talk about your book in a second, Zook. Wow, they're coming out of the woodwork. What's up, Raul? All right, good. Biden, you scum. Biden, you scum. That's great. Fantastic. What's up, Brian? What's up, everybody? Good. You know what? Listen, we're not here to cha-cha around. Let's get down to brass tacks. Let's bring on our co-host, our big friend and supporter, author, Joel Gustin. What's up?
Hey, man. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Hello, everybody in the chat room and watching worldwide.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm excited, and I'm excited about this show, and I know you are too. You were instrumental in making this happen today, so we all appreciate that.
Yeah, man, no problem. I'm excited. I was thinking the last time I had a real proper chat with Merle, maybe 6-7 years ago, if not longer. So
yeah,
we're long overdue. So I'm looking forward to just, chatting with you, chatting with him and going through some history and, hopefully talking about some stuff that a lot of the other GG and Merle related videos don't get into. That's what I'm really hoping for today. So
absolutely. And thanks for reminding me. I want to make a mention that I will not be tolerant at all of anybody disrespecting our guest today. So if anybody wants to get cheeky or get stupid or carry on, zero tolerance from me, like all our guests, and we have a great audience that watches the show and that kind of nonsense. But there's a format here to the show. If you're watching the show for the first time, there's a little bit of a format here. We're going to bring the guest on. We're going to talk to him for a while. We're going to take a sponsor break. We'll bring it back on. There'll be a quick sponsor break, and then at the very end, for about 15 minutes, we take questions from around the world for the most part. So save your bevy of questions towards the end. I want to mention I got this book in the mail from Anthony Zuccaro, and I think this is really interesting because this is a Misfits Misfits centric book from Italy in Italian, and I want and I love what he wrote. He said, to Drew, the tireless and unstoppable keeper of the New York hardcore. So
nice.
I like it. But, Joel, I just thought that, you'd be able to add some perspective. Just incredible how the Misfits sort of, dare I say, legacy or just everything surrounding the folklore, how it's just so incredible that books are written about it, in Italy and other languages and stuff like that. I know you're very close, with Jerry and those guys, and you even, you played drums with them when they were rehearsing up for the comeback. Incredible, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, obviously they're bigger now than they ever were. When they do gigs now, it's at arenas, not mid-sized sheds. Look, I think it comes down to the songwriting and the imagery. If they just had the imagery and the songs were garbage, they wouldn't have gone that far.
Yeah.
If they just had the songs without the imagery, same thing. So it was like a great combination of elements. And of course, we have to acknowledge there's an interesting combination of personalities in that band's history, which added some color and some fire to what they were doing. And it's great. I grew up down the road from Jerry and Doyle, so as a kid, I got to hang out with those guys. I worked with them for about 1.5 years, doing various things. I was there when Graves auditioned, so that kind of puts me in that timeline. And Jerry Only, hardest working person I've ever known in the music industry or otherwise. That guy is tireless. And as far as I'm concerned, he deserves everything he gets. And I love the fact that his kids are going to be set now because of all that hard work he put in. I would see that guy start his days at 7 a.m. and end at midnight, all Misfits related, so
hard,
always.
Yeah, incredible work ethic. You know what's interesting? We just had Googie on the show, right? We just had Googie on the show the other day, and we're talking about this, and then on Sunday we got Dave Lombardo on the show, who's playing drum for the Misfits these days. So a lot of Misfits stuff swirling in the air. Another thing I wanted to mention before we bring our guest on is this was announced the other day, and I posted it on the New York Hardcore Chronicles page. This is a tribute to SOD, Storm Breeders of Death, Scott Ian, Danny Lilker, Jamie Jasta from Hatebreed singing, and Revel Ian, which is Scott Ian's son, playing drums. And I just wanted to point out, because it just a whole kind of scrum developed, and I just want to point out that this is being advertised as a tribute to SOD. This is not being advertised as SOD or anything like that. This is a tribute to SOD. So, people are getting all kinds of crazy about this one or that one or this, that. It's a friggin' tribute.
Look at that lineup of musicians. Just look at that. You got Jasta, you got Danny Lilker, Scott, and Revel. I mean, look, what else are you going to be lucky enough to see right now than that combination of people?
Yeah.
So deal with it. The songs are classic. That album, I think, is 40 years old this year, thereabouts. Still holds up. Lilker's got the best bass tone in metal as far as I'm concerned. Him and Shane from Napalm Death. And look, these guys are still in the game. I'm 48. I could barely get up in the morning. These motherfuckers are playing that kind of music. So you got to pay a respect where it's due. Ian's put his time in. Lilker's put his time in. Jasta, of course. Anybody who complains about it, who wasn't, look, the people who made that music have a say because they helped create it. So we can take that opinion or leave it. But as far as the fans, when's your tribute show coming up? When's your tour coming up? Years into the game, people are pissing and moaning about the dead Kennedys. It's like, motherfuckers.
Well,
I get 40th anniversary tour happening.
You know what I'm kind of getting at in a certain way is like something like the Dead Kennedys at this point, and some other should almost be called a tribute to the Dead Kennedys. Do you know what I mean? Like, and so what I'm kind of pointing out here is at least they're coming out of the gate going, "Hey, we're playing some music, and it's a tribute to this band that we used to play in." Whereas there are some bands that really should be, Dead Kennedys should be a tribute to the Dead Kennedys or a tribute to Molly Hatchet, or something like that. But as we know, in this world we live in, the legacy, names, legacy bands, and I know because I sang an Antidote, and then that came to an end, and we started something totally different, and it's not easy. It's a bit of it's work, and that's why people just hold on to any form of the name as possible.
Well, I've been guilty myself over the years of being critical of reunions and tributes and what have you. But the bottom line is the only people who have a say in those matters are the people who created the music, the artists themselves. And if they can, in a majority sense, agree to do something, by all means do it. Like this Sex Pistols thing with the replacement singer. Right. Paul Cook and Steve Jones and Matlock are there. They were as important as Lydon. We're not at their kitchen table or band rehearsals dealing with the shit. We're just there to enjoy the music. So honor those who put the time in. Let them deal with the garbage. It's like that band you just mentioned from Jersey, the Misfits. I mean, Jesus Christ, talk about drama. Right. But look, the only people who have a say in the matter are those guys. They're the ones who are putting the work in. Black Flag just came up again.
Yeah.
That guy's put the time in. Either you buy the ticket or you don't. Obviously, enough people are buying the tickets because these shows wouldn't keep happening without that.
Exactly.
So they're appealing to some people. And look, let's be honest. We have so many other things to worry about right now in this life. You're going to worry about what Ian's doing.
You know what happened in New York today? Or no, actually, it didn't actually happen yet, but looks like congestion pricing in New York City, where I live, has been repealed, which is like pretty incredible. I mean, we don't get into the politics of it, but they repealed congestion pricing, which is, for me personally, is awesome. Awesome.
Well, I mean, I'd imagine it's going to help the shows out there too.
That's right. Well, 100, the shows that we do, the all ages, free matinees down on the Bowery, are within the zone. So on a Sunday, when there is no goddamn congestion on a Sunday, now the people won't get charged, for $9 toll to go down to, an empty part of the city. It's ridiculous, man. What is congestion pricing? That's right. Congestion pricing here in Manhattan is, if you go below 62nd Street, Manhattan, it's a $9 toll. So, they did away with that. Anyway, let's carry on. Let's bring our guest on quickly. Let me say that this is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. We are sponsored by the Texas Silver Rush, DTFM Vinyl Distro, Generation Records, 126 Hardcore Clothing, and Mad Vintage. Mad Vintage buys, sells, and collects band shirts, primarily hardcore. The DOI operation was started and is operated by a hardcore kid who just loves collecting and eventually got into vintage clothing, specifically the realm of vintage band shirts. They are always looking to buy out collectors to either keep, sell, or trade. New shirts added daily at www.madvintage.com and posted on Instagram. Dig deep into that closet of crapola. Reach out to them. Help me help you. Mad Vintage. That said, let's clear the deck. Let's make sure nobody's killing each other in the chat room. Okay. Yeah. All right. Everybody's still going on. Yes. The 59th Street, everything will be free again. They repealed the friggin' thing. I mean, not yet, but supposedly in the next couple days. All right. That said, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Today's guest is an American bass guitarist and noted collector of serial killer memorabilia hailing from the Live Free or Die state of New Hampshire. He is primarily known for his work with Thrills and the three bands that featured his brother G.G. Allin, Malpractice, the AIDS Brigade, and of course, the Murder Junkies. Here today to talk to us about his proficient musical career, as well as the legacy of his infamous brother, please welcome, coming at us from Murrieta in the great state of in the Sunshine State of California, Mr. Merle Allin. Hey, man.
Hey, greetings, ladies and gentlemen and fellow scumfucks. I'm here to ruin your fucking day.
Good to see you, Merle.
Good to be here.
Good. How's things in California? Do you like your life out in California now that you don't have to deal with the seasons and the brutal winters in places like New Hampshire?
Well, I love the weather. I hate the politics. And, I loved it more when I first moved here. I've been here now for 14 years. So it's kind of, okay, where am I going to go next? I don't know. I'm going to stay someplace warm, but I don't know if I'm going to stay in California or maybe go to Texas or someplace like that. I haven't decided yet, but.
Sure. Makes sense. So let's bounce the ball back and forth a little bit, and we'll chop it up. Sure. I know a lot of this stuff is out there, Merle, but we're gonna kind of go over some of it again. But how did you come up? Did you grow up in a musical household? How did music come into your life?
Oh boy! Well, we grew up in a small town in between two towns. Actually, we weren't actually in a town. We were on RFD2 road, between Lancaster, New Hampshire, and Groveton, New Hampshire. We lived in a very small 3-room log cabin. I would say no more than 400 to 500 square feet. I mean, it was so small that me and my brother had to have a bunk beds in our bedroom because we didn't have enough room for 2 beds. There was no running water. We had to get water from a well. I mean, we lived, my parents didn't have shit. My father worked at a paper mill when he worked, and some of the times he just didn't work, and then my mother would have to go out and get jobs. So, we had a pretty rough first 10 years of our life until, my mother was smart enough to finally leave my father. But yeah, we were pretty isolated because, like I said, we didn't really live in a town. So we didn't really have any people to hang out with and play with and stuff like that. We heard music. My mom sang in like the church choir when she was, young, and my father would play, Hank Williams and Johnny Cash and
Sure.
Merle Haggard and stuff like that, when we were, kids.
Is that the first stuff that kind of came across your radar screen? Is some of that? I don't know if they would call that outlaw country back then, but Merle Haggard and
yeah, they didn't really call it outlaw country back then.
Yeah.
It was country. It's not like what you hear today is not country at all.
Yeah,
they try to, I mean, this is the old school country that we listen to.
Sure.
And, I mean, that was the first music that we heard because we had no way to get music where we were, I mean, what was there, like 3 channels on TV? I mean, we're talking about the 60s, 50s and 60s here, So honestly, the first time we heard rock and roll was when the Beatles played on the Ed Sullivan Show in 1964. We heard about that, and my mother decided that she would let us get out of bed because it was past our bedtime when Ed Sullivan Show came on. I don't remember what time it was, but it was past our bedtime. So she let us get out of bed. We saw the Beatles for the first time. That was like really the first rock and roll that we had seen, on TV and whatnot. And we were just like, wow. That was like, it left an impression on us, like this is what we want to do with our life,
That's incredible. It's incredible considering, you weren't in like a very musical environment that you would see that and it just infused excitement into you. And I'm assuming living in an isolated existence like that. I'm assuming having a younger brother, that you and your brother were very, very close growing up. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that was the thing. We had to really search to find music because there was nobody around. My mother, basically what happened was after the Ed Sullivan Show in 64, my mom left my father the next year, and we moved to Lancaster, which was another small town. That's the town we were both born in. And my mom had a girlfriend that had a daughter that was like a few years older than we were, right? Mm-hmm. And she had records by like the Herman's Hermits and the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and, bands like that, Dave Clark 5, the Kinks, stuff like that. So we started hearing like the more British invasion stuff probably than anything, and that was like some of the first bands that we actually heard.
Sure.
And we loved all of that stuff,
Interesting. The British invasion stuff really resonated with these two young kids, growing up in really rural New Hampshire. That's how far-reaching that wave was in the '60s. Interesting.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
so, we were like, I was 10 years old in '65, and my brother was like 9. So, a few more years go by, and we're grabbing onto any kind of music. Well, not any kind, but all the kind
Yeah.
of music that we, wanted to hear. And then we started listening to stuff like, Led Zeppelin's first album came out, and
Sure.
that
Sure.
changed a lot of things. And then as the late '60s, early '70s came about, that's when we, started to buy instruments, and, we had to save our money to buy instruments because we didn't have any fucking money, and we didn't want to work. So a lot of times we would go to stores and steal records and stuff like that, or
Right.
steal stuff that we could sell to our friends so we could make money, so we could buy shit, and so then we started getting into bands like Alice Cooper,
Sure.
David Bowie. It was like that, what do you call it? Like shock rock type, what they want to call it.
Well, Ray Hogan asks, like, what was the first extreme music you heard? And dare I say, probably something like Alice Cooper, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was stuff like, we saw the Alice Cooper original band in '72.
Nice.
The Schools Out. And we saw the same year, we saw the Bowie Ziggy Stardust tour,
Wow.
So basically what we had to do, me and my brother, we had to, we would get magazines like Circus Magazine or Rock Scene Magazine or any of these magazines that would, have anything musical in it, and that's how we found out about a lot of bands. Because
Sure.
what was there? 3 TV channels back in the fucking '60s, And where we lived, there was nothing going on. No bands were playing in fucking New Hampshire, So I don't even know. I can't even honestly remember how we figured out, the bands that we saw, because we saw Zeppelin in '75. We saw Grand Funk Railroad. We saw everybody. Queen, Mott the Hoople.
Wow.
You name it, we probably saw it. But Aerosmith was,
Yeah, I guess, and Joel, I'm going to defer to you in a second, but, I know, having grown up somewhat in that era, basically you follow the breadcrumbs back then. You sort of, you find out that, Hendrix was produced by this guy, and that guy also produced this. Oh, okay. And Alice Cooper. Yeah, I know. For me, in a lot of ways, like Frank Zappa led me to Alice Cooper. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and,
right.
and things like that. Joel, anything to add?
Well, it didn't take you and Gigi very long before you were actually doing band stuff. So if I'm correct, the first band that you guys had together was called Little Sister's Date, right?
That is correct. Now, Gigi had a band before we had Little Sister's Day. He was already playing drums, and he had a band called Flame. Now, I don't think anybody knows about that, but that was one of Gigi's very first bands, and they used to rehearse. This is pretty funny, in the basement of the Catholic Church in Lancaster, New Hampshire.
Wow.
So we would hitchhike over, when we weren't living in Lancaster at the time. We moved around a lot growing up. We went from Lunenburg to Littleton to Lancaster to this place and that place. So we did a lot of hitchhiking, and we hitchhiked to concerts all the time. I mean,
it's a lost art. It's something like looking in today's world. You think hitchhiking, it just seems like such an incredibly dangerous, thing. But back then, in the late '60s and '70s, people were hitchhiking all the time, everywhere.
Yeah, and that's when the serial killers started killing everybody. Now people don't hitchhike anymore.
There you go. But you mentioned Gigi playing drums. Like how did Gigi gravitate to drums and you to bass? Like how did that sort of happen?
Okay, well, Gigi was like a very like high strung, like not nervous, but just very high strung, like kid. So he was always like everywhere he was always tapping or tapping his feet or tapping his fingers on a table or, he was always like simulating that he was playing drums in one form or another. So when he decided to start playing drums, it really didn't surprise any of us, and I started playing guitar, but there were other guitar players in our town that were already a little more established and had been playing a little bit longer. And so that's because the first band that I was in with my brother, Little Sisters Date, I played guitar. And Al Chappell, who was the original bass player for the Jabbers, he played guitar as well in Little Sisters Date. And I mean, it was our first band, so we were still learning how to fucking tune our guitars, and play songs that were simple enough for us to be able to play,
Did Little Sisters Date cover Aerosmith and Kiss?
Malpractice covered it. Yeah, you know what? I mean, Little Sisters Date did some Aerosmith songs too. Yeah.
Right.
But we weren't good enough to really play them very well. And honestly, we only played like maybe 2 or 3 shows. I think we played the Bicentennial in '76. And then I think we played like in the park, there's like I don't know if it's what they call it, a gazebo or something.
Sure.
We played like in the park in Lunenburg one time. So, we probably played in front of 50 people for all the shows that we played, and then
go ahead.
That was in like 76, around that time. And then that band ended up, breaking up. And that's when I decided to start playing bass because I figured there were no bass players in the towns. Nobody wants to fucking play bass for some reason, everybody wants to be the fucking guitar player, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I'm going to learn how to play bass. And that way I'll be able to play in everybody's band,
we pulled the Aerosmith card, like, I'm sure growing up in Massachusetts or New Hampshire, Vermont, Aerosmith was sort of a big player in the game because they were from that area. I mean, they came up in New Hampshire, so Aerosmith was like a rock band that just they you could look at Aerosmith and go, they fucking did it,
Yeah. Well, I mean, Steven Tyler was a drummer, and he played in local New Hampshire bands. The band that me and my brother worked for, which was a band called Fox, they were like really popular in the Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, like circuit, colleges, high schools, and we would go along with them. Me and my brother would do like the lights, and we were like their roadies, and I don't even know what the fuck where I was going.
No, that makes sense. So how did Malpractice come together? Was there a game plan? Was there a mission statement? Like, what's the origin of Malpractice?
All right. Well, me and my brother, we ran an ad. I think we must have run an ad in some paper in New Hampshire or something. And this guy Jeff Penny, the guy on the far left, Jeff Penny was from Gorham, New Hampshire, which was about an hour or so from where we lived. And we got together with him and we rehearsed in his basement. And it was just me and Gigi and Jeff for a while. And then we added the last guy in the space outfit on the right.
Right.
And we only added him in the band because we needed a light show and we needed some equipment, and he had money, so we were like, okay, you can join the band, but you got to buy us a light show and everything.
And what was like the circuit that Malpractice would play in back then?
All right. Well, we had, all right, you got to imagine, it's fucking freezing in New Hampshire, right? Where we had a bread truck, right? We had a Howard Johnson's bread truck with no fucking heater in it, right? And we played all around Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. And we would occasionally, we played a couple of shows at the Rat in Boston. And we actually went to New York and played, I forget the name. I think the name of the club was Tracks. It wasn't Tramps.
Tracks was right in my neighborhood where I live here now. It was on 72nd Street, off near off Central Park West. And I went there as a young teenager. There was a place called Tracks. You go down the stairs. Yeah, it was Tracks. I saw Blotto there back in the day, and I'm talking 78, 77. I saw these bands there. Yeah,
we would have been there in like 77. Yeah. And it was funny because we were in New York and everybody was talking about the Son of Sam and the whole serial killers thing that was going on at the time. Yeah.
Wow.
So, but we mostly just played like Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont, and so you gotta figure, we're driving around in a fucking bread truck, right, with no heater in it, in the middle of winter, going somewhere up in Maine to play a fucking show where you got to play like 3 fucking sets. Back then, you didn't just play one set; you had to play like fucking 3 sets. You had to bring your own fucking sound system with you, your own light show. You had to bring everything with you,
Right.
And so
then get treated like shit by thug gangster club owners.
Oh yeah, and they were always telling us to turn down. We were too fucking loud, and we were our mentality was the louder the better. I mean, come on. I mean, especially when you're not really still that good.
Sure.
Hey, Joel, the distortion kills the the mistakes and everything. So
yeah, Joel, you mentioned to me when we were kind of doing our pre-show that like Gigi was a pretty damn good drummer, huh?
Yeah, and I want to get into that with you, Merle, because Malpractice era 77, Gigi would have been 16-ish, 17, and you would have been.
Like, I'm in 56, so you do the math because I can't.
Okay, so he was still a pretty young guy.
Yeah.
What blows me away about Malpractice, and I got the record here, but I think this is the repress that Malcolm Tent put out a couple years back.
It's like it, yeah.
There's the B-side on this single has a song called Devil's Triangle, which is a very different sounding song when you consider Gigi played on it. I mean, I don't mean this disrespectfully, but I would, to put an easy stamp on it, I'd say it's kind of yacht rock. But here's the thing. I've listened a lot to that record, particularly the rhythm section, you and Gigi, who was still Kevin at that point.
Right.
You guys were amazing players, man. I mean, Gigi, I'm a drummer, so I listened to the drums, and Gigi was doing fills with a hi-hat. He was throwing down jazz licks when he was a kid. I mean, and you guys didn't have any formal training, right, musically?
Absolutely none. None at all. No. Yeah, Gigi was a great drummer. He would sit in his room. We lived in a trailer, and Gigi had a room on one end of the trailer, and I had a room on the other end. And he had his drums set up in his room, and he would play like his stereo, and he would put a record on and just fucking play to the record. And the cops would come on. We had the cops at our house all the fucking time.
I mean, I really do think Gigi drumming at that age, had that been like the path he went on, he would have been somebody who could play with anybody.
Oh yeah, no, he
had
was
that
a
talent.
great drummer. Yeah, he
Great,
was an
great
excellent.
drummer. I mean, we're not talking. I'm not, being overly generous here. He was a fucking incredible drummer.
Yeah,
Well,
he was.
you're a drummer, Joel. So it does come with a bevy of weight to it. From one drummer to another. It's not like someone that
Yeah,
has never picked up a pair of drumsticks going. He was a great drummer.
yeah.
Right.
I mean, even I will get to that obviously down the line, but even like the Murder Junkies stuff. I mean, there's a sense of melody there and song structure. You guys were the real thing. You were musicians, and you were musicians hitting the ground young.
Like you said earlier in your when you were talking about the Misfits, I mean, let's face it, if Gigi's music hadn't been as good as it was with the melodies and the hooks and the catchy fucking, I mean, you can sing along to Expose Yourself to Kids, and you don't even really know what you're singing until you listen to the words, and then you're like, wow, that melody is so great though. It's like the words are totally fucking like, disgusting to most people, but it's a great melody.
Yeah,
If Gigi wasn't such a genius songwriter, nobody would give a fuck about him today. Nobody gives a shit. Some guy that took a dump on stage or beat up his fucking, his fans or did this and that and the other. Nobody would have cared about that shit. I mean, they would have watched it for the freak show, but he wouldn't have sold any records, and we wouldn't be playing shows. We wouldn't be together. We wouldn't be out here doing this now.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And I have to say that I really enjoyed doing a deep dive into the catalog this week leading up to the show. I really, really enjoyed going deep. And Joel,
some of the music is like really raw, and the production quality is poor in a lot of Gigi material. But you know what? The fucking songs are so fucking great, and they're so catchy. And I mean, I get fans all that. The great thing about Gigi is there was never anyone like him. So when he died, that void was never filled by anyone else. You can take a lot of other bands, like even like Nirvana, there was plenty of bands that sounded similar to Nirvana. I'm not trying to, diss on Nirvana or anything. I'm just making an example that there was really nobody else like Gigi. So that void never got filled. And so nowadays, when you get these young kids that are going to be rebellious and all that, who are they going to gravitate to? Gigi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
And once I get like customers, that buy something, they want to buy the next thing. Oh my God, I got to see this show. I got to have that one. They got to have the whole fucking collection. They don't stop at like, one or two records or one or two videos. They want to, I guess it's like a car crash. You want to see what, what's going to be next. But
yeah, it's absolutely. So how does Malpractice come to an end? I know I know Gigi goes on the Jabbers and I know you kind of go on to do Thrills, City Thrills. How do things sort of, I know you guys kind of went your own path for a little bit. Walk us through that a bit.
Yeah, well, Malpractice just kind of played ourselves out, I mean, it was great, it was fun to do, and it was the first record that we ever did. But Jeff had this like, idea that we were going to get signed and we were going to be fucking the next fucking Arrows. I mean, it was just, and me and my brother were a little more, grounded and thinking to ourselves, this band isn't going anywhere. Come on, we're a fucking shitty band in fucking New Hampshire. We're never going anywhere. So we basically, ended the band so we could pursue something that might be a little bit more productive and more enjoyable, or I don't know. And then
go ahead.
So that's what happened. And then me and my brother put an ad in the Boston Phoenix, and we were looking for a band, okay? And Johnny Angel from the band Thrills called me up, and him and Bob McKenzie, who wrote the song Don't Talk to Me on the first Jabbers record, who was actually my roommate when I moved to Boston, they came up from Boston. They drove up to fucking Vermont and auditioned me and my brother for Thrills, okay?
Wow.
So we got the gig, but then Gigi decided that he didn't want to play in Thrills. Plus, he was on the verge of getting married. So he basically stayed in New Hampshire, got married, moved to Manchester to start working on putting the band, the Jabbers, together. Now, the Jabbers, the first single, me and my brother had already done together without a real band. There was no band yet. That first Jabbers single, me and Gigi went up to Maine and recorded that. And then basically what happened was I went down to Boston and joined Thrills.
I know this isn't that, but this is what I guess this is some live stuff. This isn't the first single. Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead.
That's the first single. That's the single.
This is the first single. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's the single that me and my brother did before the Jabbers were actually a band.
Got it.
It was Bored to Death, One Man Army, and BBB. Yeah.
Got it. I'm sorry. Go on.
So Gigi stayed in New Hampshire and put the Jabbers together, and I went to Boston and started playing with Thrills, and I mean, those were some of the best years of my fucking life, I'll tell you, man. I mean, I went from listening to the Ramones and the Dead Boys and Blondie and you name it, the New York scene, all of that stuff. I went from listening to those bands on homemade cassette tapes in my car while I was driving to work at a shoe factory in Littleton, New Hampshire in 1977. And in 1978, I'm playing in a band called Thrills, and we're opening for the Ramones. We're opening for the Dead Boys. We're opening for the Cars. We're opening for U2. We're opening for Johnny Thunder, Stiff Little Fingers, you name it. We opened for everybody back then. We were one of the local Boston bands that got the weekend gigs at either the Rat, Cantones, or the Space, or the Paradise Theater. The Paradise Theater is where everybody wanted to play because that's where we got to open for like bands that would bring in 500 people, And
I was in Boston in 1981. I was there going to Emerson College, and that's where my life kind of took a turn. And I remember, City Thrills, and I remember a lot of bands from that era, November.
There was the Nervous Eaters, and there was the La
Peste, the November Group, and the Neighborhoods, and the Outlets.
So many great fucking bands.
And Boston had an incredibly, incredibly vibrant music scene in those years.
Well, and we were already tapped into it when we were still living in New Hampshire. We'd already heard the Real Kids. We'd already heard DMZ. We had seen Thunder Train had actually played at our high school, at a high school dance.
Wow.
In Concord, Vermont.
Lou Miami and the Cosmetics.
Love Lou Miami. Yeah. Lou Miami. Yeah.
The Neats. Yes, of course we remember the Neats and the Outlets and
all of those bands. Yep. Yeah.
They were all part of this incredible circuit in Boston.
Boston had an amazing scene, man. They had a really amazing scene, and it was a lot of fun until everybody got serious, And in the beginning, You know, everybody would go to everybody's shows. I mean, I would literally be out in the club every night, pretty much every fucking night, you know, and we would be coming home while the fucking sun was coming up, you know, and and that was my life back then, man. And then things started to get serious, and everybody started to get better, and everybody started to think about getting a contract and getting signed and this, that, and the other. And then when the neighborhoods won the Battle of the Bands in '78, you know, they were on their way, but it kind of ruined the whole, you know, tightness of the scene. Plus the scene got more popular, and as the fucking college fucking jackass fucking kids started to invade the fucking scene, because in the beginning, you know, there would be maybe 50 to 100 people at the Rat, you know, on any given night, and it was all people you knew. You know, it was all your fucking friends. So you were socializing and having a good time and seeing great music, and that was, you know, the thing. But once the college kids got involved, and then it started, you know, everybody, oh, we're going to get a contract. We got a manager and blah, blah, blah. And it was, you know, I mean, that's how, you know.
That's how it goes. I remember being up there in '81, and like you talk about the Rat, you know, which I should pull a shot, but let me see. I think we need a good visual for this. Hold on, let me see.
Oh, and I wasn't dissing you when I said I was about the college kids.
Oh, it's okay. It's all right. Believe me, I wasn't having the time of my life going to college up there.
Right.
It was,
yeah.
But I do remember hanging out. A lot of fun was hanging out in Kenmore Square, and you know, Mr. Butch and all that. It was,
Mr. Butch. Yeah.
You know,
and the famous fights at the pizza deli next door.
Yeah.
Remember there was the disco club right across the street.
Narcissus.
And there was Narcissus on one side of the street, the Rat on the other side of the street, and the Pizza Pad right in between. Right. So after hours, the disco people and the punk people all fucked up, drunk. You know, everybody wants pizza, right? There used to be a line of cop cars outside of the Pizza Pad because there were so many fights in there, you know?
Yeah, but it reminded me.
Let me jump in real quick.
Please.
Since we're talking about thrills, check this out, Merle. I've had this since before I even had Gigi Records. I found this at a flea market in Jersey when I was a kid. This is a City Thrills promo. With your manager's phone number on it.
Tom, right?
Tom. Yeah.
Yep.
T Crossweight, right?
That's fucking funny.
Check this out, Merle. In addition to the record, when I brought it home, when I pulled the record out, 2 8x10 promo photos fell out of it.
No shit.
So there's one picture, and here's the group shot that came with the record.
Oh yeah. Oh boy, what's the other one?
The other photo?
Yeah, show me the other photo again.
Yeah, it's a live shot.
Oh shit. Oh, that's great. I never saw that. I mean, I've seen the picture, but I never knew anybody made it into a promo picture. Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'll have you sign it next time I see you.
Yeah. Cool. Fuck yeah.
Wow.
What?
That very cool. So here's just for all those out there. Here's a little visual of this. This was the Rat in Boston, fondly remembered by many. An inherently violent place, run by mobsters and thugs, basically. But those
fucking bouncers, man, those bouncers were brutal, man.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
This was like, to me, I always kind of felt like the Rat was like the CBGB of Boston. You know.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So. Yeah, just a little background on the Rat in Boston. And of course, like a lot of things, it's no longer there. And Kenmore Square has been gentrified. And here's one last shot of the marquee. But legendary shows happened at the Rat, and a lot of bands that came over, played. Many bands played their first show ever in Boston at the Rat.
Yeah.
So
I saw the Police at the Rat the very first time, maybe in front of 100 people.
wow.
The next time I saw the Police, they were playing with the Go-Go's at the Boston Garden.
Wow.
And the only reason I went was because I won tickets on BCN or one of those stations. Yeah.
So how did this hand play out? And how did this come to an end for you?
Okay, well, we went from Thrills because there was another band that was called Thrills, so we had to change our name to City Thrills, and then we added a guitar player, Sean McDonough, who was in a band called The Survivors.
Yeah.
And they were from Connecticut. They played a few shows with us. So he joined the band when we became City Thrills. And that's when, we went into the studio, we got a manager, we went into the studio that Aerosmith used to own. I think the Cars had owned it at the time we were in there.
Was that Synchro Sound?
Intermedia? Was it Intermedia?
I'm not sure. I thought.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait, I think it was Intermedia when Aerosmith owned it.
Okay.
Intermedia says right here.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Okay. So I was right. Okay. Yeah. So we went in there and we recorded this City Thrills, kind of overly produced. And, they were trying to, I guess they were trying to make us more into like a girl group, since we had a female singer and whatnot.
Yep.
But, I don't know. Some of the people, I don't like to talk badly about them because I love all those guys, but Barb had a drug problem and Johnny was very, like a firecracker, he could explode at any minute, so we didn't have the best, when somebody's looking to sign a band, they want somebody that's got all their shit together. And although we were a great band, we had a few issues, and I don't know if that was the problem or it just wasn't the right time or, we just weren't good enough. Who knows?
I remember Johnny Angel. He was friends with Bob White. And I don't know if you remember Bob White. He was a character.
Bob died, right?
That's right. Bob died, and Bob passed away sadly. And here's a shot. This is a shot of me and Bob White, like probably a month or two before, sadly, he took his own life. So that's Bob White, and he was a great Boston original, man. He was a great character.
Yeah.
He was around the early days. Kenny asks, hey, what's Merle's favorite Thrills songs?
My favorite Thrills songs. Wow. Let me see.
I'm sure you haven't been asked that in a couple years.
Got a nice Thrills.
Nice.
I like Wait For Me. I like, we had a song called Kicking Cripples. We had a song called Summer Street Massacre. Remember the incident that happened on Summer Street? There was like some kind of mass shooting or something. Mm-hmm. Wait For Me, I liked. Not Another Face in the Crowd. There were a lot of good Thrill songs.
Right on. When Thrills comes to an end, and as you were doing that parallel, Gigi starts fronting a band and sort of going down his own path. Could you give us some perspective on that?
Yeah. Well, okay. So Gigi started. The Jabbers were going at that point, and actually, the Jabbers' first show in Boston, they opened for Thrills at Cantone's.
Oh wow!
And Gigi, this was Gigi was still in the early stages of developing his craziness, you know. So I just remember things like he would go out on, you know, and to people's tables and like, you know, knock their tables over or pick up their drinks and spill it on their head, or, you know, he was doing shit like that, you know. And at that point, you know, we were like, wow, this guy, he's fucking crazy, man. What the fuck is he doing, you know? And then we would go see him when he would play the Rat, because he played Boston, you know, several times. They played the Channel. They played the Rat. And we would go to the Rat and see him, and I would tell him, I'd be like, Gigi, be careful here, man, because these fucking bouncers will fucking take you out back and beat the fuck out of you, man. You know? And so, but he would like, you know, hang from the fucking pipes, you know, and shit like that. And I was just like, oh boy, if he breaks these fucking pipes, he's going to be fucked, man.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, he wasn't doing anything super crazy at that point, but he was, you know, flopping around on the stage, kind of like Iggy-ish, you know, Iggy Pop kind of like at that point, you know.
Joel?
Oh, during this era,
Yeah.
I think some amazing stuff came out from Gigi during this early era.
Yeah.
You know, that first record, the one that Drew just had on the screen, is a tremendous punk rock record. You know, it's in the class with like the Dead Boys and the real rock and roll based stuff. Funny factoid, I have a bandmate I've had for years, Martin Atkins, who's been on the show. He was in Pill and a bunch of bands. He got his jaw broken by Gigi one night in Boston.
Oh, that's right. At the Rat, right?
Yeah.
In the bathroom at the Rat.
Yep.
And I'm not sure it was Gigi that did it. I heard it was Al that did it.
Okay, I'll have to get to the bottom of that, because the legend is Gigi did it, but it could have been Al, because Martin was too fucked up to know for sure.
So basically what happened, because I don't know the full story myself. All I know is that Martin got beat up by what I thought was Al, but it could have been Gigi, but, you know.
I kind of guess, is it safe to say, Merle, that through the shifting sands of time, a lot of these sort of instances, just by folklore, would get put on Gigi? Like,
oh my
you know.
God, yeah. I mean, you know, sometimes I'll have people message me and go, how many people did Gigi really kill, you know? I mean, seriously, man.
That's
you know,
wild.
You take a story. Well, you know how a story starts, and then it gets embellished, and it turns into from a snowball to a snow fucking avalanche. You know, but I've had people like say, "How many people did Gigi kill?" And you know, this, that, and the other. It's like, no, not none that I know of. You know,
right. And when did you musically reconnect with your brother and start playing with him again?
Okay, well, after Thrills was finished, they basically, what happened was everybody in Thrills decided they were going to move to New York City. Okay, and I'm thinking to myself, because a lot of the New York bands would come to Boston, okay? And the Boston bands were considered like, you know, they were like disregarded by New York bands. You know, they looked at us like we had no fucking fashion at all, you know, and they just looked down on Boston bands, the New York bands did, you know. And so what the fuck was I saying? What was it? What was the question again?
How did you reconnect with your brother and start playing with music with him again?
Okay, so Thrills decided to move to New York, and I decided to stay in Boston, and I decided to get married. Fucking dumb mistake, okay? But basically, what happened was when Thrills moved to New York, the only time they got gigs where they were playing in front of a lot of people is when they came back to Boston and played.
Right.
So they really didn't, connect with the New York crowd, I guess, and they broke up maybe a year or two later, maybe a year later. I don't know exactly, but I was dealing with my own hell at that point because I had gotten married and I had gotten a job and I had to fucking act like a fucking adult for like the first time in my life.
You went straight. You tried to go straight, didn't you?
Well, I didn't try to go straight, but I tried to go as straight as I could,
Right.
But that didn't really work out too well. So I ended up getting a divorce after a few years of that. And that's when, I was very envious of my brother because he was playing and doing stuff with all kinds of different people and this, that, and the other. And I was like doing nothing again, So we connected again. And that's when we decided we were going to start a band. This was like in the later 80s, and that's when we decided to do the AIDS Brigade.
Right.
Now, the AIDS Brigade was a difficult band because, anybody in Boston that wanted to play with us was not very good. And the people that we wanted to play with wouldn't give us the time of day because they thought we sucked, and that's the whole Boston thing, So I knew we had to get the fuck out of Boston, but basically we did end up playing one show and we recorded the single for Homestead, the AIDS Brigade single with Expose Yourself to Kids, Gypsy Motherfucker, and Hanging Out with Jim. And that was in 88, I believe. And so the single came out. But like I said, we really couldn't keep a band together. So we did do one show, and we had Chris Brokaw, who was in, I think he was in He was in some bands. Chris Brokaw, if you Google him, he's playing all over the world now. He's like a renowned guitar player. But we did the one show, and we had to dress in drag because the venue that we were playing at, Gigi had been kicked out of for putting a cigarette out in some girl's face. So we weren't allowed to play there with Gigi.
We'll dress him up. We'll put a dress on him. No one will know it's him.
Right. Yeah, right. Well, the cool thing was Billy Ruane. Remember Billy?
Of course. Yes, of course.
Yeah, of course you do. Of course. He booked the show. So, he was a little more lenient, and plus he was probably drunk. So he probably fucking didn't give a shit anyway, right?
Billy Ruane was drunk for like 30, 40 years straight. I
know, right? Yeah. Is he still alive?
No, Billy Ruane passed.
Okay, I see. I didn't.
They
know
did a
that.
documentary. They did a documentary about him. By the way, it was released. Al Baril from SSD Control says, "Does he remember playing with SSD? Is that right? Did
you know what's funny? I remember playing with you, fucking guy, with SSD, right? Okay, it was a Thrills and SSD show. I think it was at the Rat, and it was like one of the first times that we had really seen like the hardcore kids and their dance and their whole, that whole thing. Because we grew, the music we were playing was more like the pogo was happening, and stuff like that. But when SSD played, I just remember for the first time seeing like these crazy fucking kids like just slamming and fucking kicking and, elbowing each other and shit. And we were all like standing at the back of the venue going, God, I'm not going up near the fucking stage. This is crazy shit,
Yeah.
So yeah, I do. That's funny. I remember the SSD show because of that.
That's great. Roberto Marcelli says the AIDS Brigade is a great 7-inch. And In My Mercy Paradise, Gypsy is one of the most underrated songs ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So-
a good. It's a
so-
good it's a good record. We were all hyped up on coke during that whole fucking session, man. But I don't know, for some reason we came out with a good record, so it worked out.
It all sounds great when you're high on coke in the studio. It's
I know, right?
It's
Well,
when you wake
luckily
up the
it's
next day and listen to it.
Luckily it sounded good after, when we weren't hyped up on coke. So
There you go. So the AIDS Brigade is fairly short-lived, huh?
yeah, that was an 89 show. And that was like, okay, a few months. Well, shit, the show was in August. Gigi gets arrested in September in Chicago, gets arrested for, his antics with that girl. And that's when he went to jail. And that's when I decided that, well, me and my brother decided, okay, he's like going to be in prison for 3 years. I'm going to move to New York because we'll never get a band together in Boston, because the Boston scene at that point was pretty much dead, right? Late 80s. I mean, as far as I could tell. So I moved to New York City. And while Gigi was in prison, I put the band together, and that's when I got Dino in the band. I was told that, oh, you gotta hear this guy named Dino. He's a naked drummer, and I was like, okay, well, that sounds good to me. The more nudity, the better, right?
Right.
So we met Dino, and we had a guitar player at the time that turned out to be a real fucking asswipe. So we only ended up doing one tour with him. I don't even want to mention his name because he's such a fucking douchebag. So anyway, we rehearsed and we rehearsed and we rehearsed. And then the time had come and Gigi was getting out of prison. This was 1991.
Was Gigi in prison? Was it Michigan he was locked up?
Yeah, he was locked up in Jackson, Michigan. Yep.
Ouch. Yeah.
So he was doing his time. And while he was doing his time, we were putting a band together, because knowing Gigi the way I knew Gigi, I knew if I didn't have a band together when he got out of prison, there were going to be a half a dozen other bands that were going to be ready, that were going to want to play with him. So I made damn well fucking sure that we had a band together. And he got out of prison, came to New York, and we started playing shows.
And was that the Murder Junkies?
Yes, that was the Murder Junkies. Yep.
Right. And then the Murder Junkies sort of get set on their course. Joel, you got anything before we take a sponsor break here? We'll do a couple minutes and then we'll take a sponsor break.
Yeah, totally. Again, the Murder Junkies, that lineup with Weber on guitar, William Weber, Dino.
Weber was the second guitar player that came after the asswipe left.
Right. When you guys settled on that 4-piece lineup, again, another example of great musicianship. Dino's a character. I got to say, as a drummer, I listen to the Murder Junkies records, the later stuff. I can't figure out half the shit the guy's playing. He's a technical player, knows his stuff, killer chops. Weber, amazing guitarist. You and Gigi type musically. You guys were a tour de force, because that's when I really dove into the whole Gigi thing. When you guys were playing, I didn't get to the show because I was too young, but you guys were playing the Stone Pony. That infamous show when Ebbs turned up on stage and had to be escorted out.
Fast lane.
Excuse me. You're right. Fast lane. So I was reading about all this stuff, which leads me to, if we're looking at Gigi's album discography, I think his best stuff in a lot of ways were bookends. That first solo record, brilliant. And this fucking record. It's probably the best. Yeah.
Joel, that record right there is the only reason that I'm still playing in the Murder Junkies.
It's a great record.
Because that record, we recorded that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Joel.
No, go ahead.
I get, you know,
You're the guest. You're the guest, please.
That record was recorded in April of 1993. Okay, that was a month before we went on the final tour, the Terror in America tour. So we started the Terror in America tour in June of that year, and by the end of June, Gigi was dead. Mm. And that record didn't come out until September or October. When Gigi died, we had no thoughts of keeping the band together. We were like, okay, well, that was fun. That was great while it lasted, and nothing lasts forever. And, that'll be the end of that. So when the record came out, and for the first time ever, we actually got like a few good reviews, and I was like, holy shit, a good review? I've never seen anything like that, and not that I give a fuck about what, critics think, but it was more, rewarding having people say that, oh God, that record's so great. You guys should stay together. You should find a new singer and blah, 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 blah. And, that was like, oh boy, how are we going to do this? Yeah. It was really, really difficult in the beginning stages of keeping the Murder Junkies together because, we wanted to find a singer that wasn't like gonna imitate Gigi or copy Gigi, but we wanted a singer that was aggressive, and had the same kind of ideas and whatnot, because that's what we liked, and so we went through the trials and tribulations, and we had Mike Hudson from the Pagans sing for us for a short period. That didn't work out. As soon as he saw a little bit of blood on stage, he ended up quitting the band. And then Mike Denai joined the band in '94, and he had a big drug problem, so that was a problem as well. We did manage to record "Feed My Sleeves," which was 10-inch, and we did record "The Right to Remain Violent," which was a 7-inch, and we did tour for we did a few tours, but it was difficult because people still wanted to see the Gigi show, and we weren't doing that,
Sure.
So
excuse me, it's I don't want to use the term, it's a heavy cross to bear, but I would assume even to this day, people will come to shows and want to see the Gigi Allin blood, gore, and feces hurling, and it must be hard many years later.
It's easier now. It's much easier.
Is it?
Well, okay. It's much easier, because we don't even play Gigi songs in our set anymore. So, if you hear a Gigi song or two in our set, then you had a good show, because we rarely, I think we play "Kill the Police" at the end of the show. So we don't play Gigi songs anymore because we had to get away from that,
That makes sense.
That's when, we had a hard time finding a singer. When Paul joined the band, P.P. Duvet joined the band in 2007. Well, we basically, let me back up a little bit. Okay. So basically, we went through all these trials and tribulations with this singer and that singer through the 90s, right? In 1999, we played our last show at CBGB's, and then we were done. I was like, okay. Me and Dino were ready to kill each other. It was just really frustrating, rehearsing and not having a full band, and we were starting to get at each other's throats. So we basically called it a day, and like 4 years later, in 2003, it was Gigi's 10-year anniversary. So I had this crazy idea of putting the band back together for, 3 or 4 shows. We'll go up to Littleton, we'll go to the Grave, and everybody will come up to the Grave. We'll play a show in Littleton. We'll play a show in Boston. We'll play a show in, a couple shows on the East Coast. And we did that. And it was a big success. And we had Jeff Clayton from Anti-Scene was singing with us. He came aboard to help us out at that time because we had no singer at all, So we did that. And then after that, with the internet and everything, people were like, I was just learning about the internet and just getting online at that point. And, people were like, oh, we could book you here. We could get you a tour. Oh, give me this, that, and the other. And it kind of just snowballed into, let's put the band back together and see what happens,
Yeah,
So
that makes a lot of sense. Hey, let's take a sponsor break. You guys could take a break, go take a piss or whatever. Let me do a couple minutes and we'll come back. Lots of great questions in the chat room and we'll make another run at it. So I'll see you guys in a couple minutes. Okay.
Okay. Yep.
All right. There you have it. This is the one, the only, often imitated, never duplicated. Clank your chains and count your change. It's the motherfucking New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. Our guest today is Merle Allin. Gigi Allin, the infamous Gigi Allin's brother, co-hosted by Joel Ghostin. Lots of good questions, and I see them. We're probably going to go long today, a little longer than usual. Lots of questions. We're going to get to all the stuff, all the questions. When it's question time, you might have to repost it again. But listen, you don't need to thank me. As a matter of fact, you know what? You want to thank me? Support the friggin' show. You enjoy the show? You out there enjoying the show? Support the motherfucking show. All right? That's enables me to keep doing this, which reminds me, I looked at the shows. This is like the 365th show total. And I was tripping out on this the other day that means more than 1 year of my life I have woken up and it's been a show day. It's pretty heavy. 365th show. That said, let's do some sponsor stuff. We'll come back and we'll get right to it. Since 1992, Generation Records has been a mainstay of the New York metropolitan area music scene. Today, they offer a diverse selection of new and used rock, jazz, indie, hip-hop, punk, hardcore, metal, blues, soundtrack, and reggae LPs, as well as t-shirts, posters, and other merchandise. They buy used record collections and music memorabilia and will pay you top dollar for them. House calls made for large collections in the tri-state area. Call or email generationrecords@gmail.com and follow them on Facebook and Instagram.
Will that be cash or in debt?
Do you mean debit?
Yes. Sorry. Another eternally satisfied customer.
Yo, what's happening? I'm out here at one of our all-ages Sunday matinees on the Bowery. I hope that you are enjoying today's show. I just want to let you know that the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live needs your support. Please step up. There is a Patreon page that has a lot of unique program. Shows are announced there first. Lots of good stuff. There's a PayPal address right there on the screen if you want to make a contribution. There's also a super chat function. You could do that, but the bottom line is this show exists because of your support. We're going to be doing it for a long, long time. Thank you for all your support through the years. Back to the show.
about the digital age, a 21st century casualty. Open your eyes, you're losing control. Open your eyes, put down the phone. Conditioned by misinformation, it's just the media telling us lies. Decipher fiction from the truth, society's slow and tragic demise. Open your eyes, you're losing control. Open your eyes, put down the phone. Everyone's got their phone.
Come on now, let's get some. We're back. Hey, want to mention some upcoming shows. Yo, this Sunday, come on now, Dave Lombardo is going to be on the show. Listen, if you don't know who Dave Lombardo is, you're watching the wrong show. Dave Lombardo's coming up on Sunday. A week and a half after that, Travis Nelson, a.k.a. Reverend Sinister of the Hub City Stompers. Sunday, March 9th, Carla Gale from Corrosion of Conformity, Leadfoot Seizure, and more. Dina Douglas, photographer. Wednesday, March 12th. Of course, we love having photographers on and doing show and tell. Kurt from DRI on Wednesday, March 19th. Adam Blake from H2O on Sunday, March 23rd. And speaking of photographers, this hasn't been announced yet. An old friend of mine, interestingly enough, went to friggin' junior high school with this guy. David Plastic, photographer extraordinaire, will be on the show Sunday, March 30th. I know we just went through the promos, but hey, please support the show on Patreon. I want to shout out new patrons, John Dunn, formerly of Iron Cross, and Mike and Alice Sincota. Thank you for your support. Listen, the best way to support the show is join Patreon, be a patron. That's what works best. There's a PayPal address. There's also a super chat function. So if you do the super chat function for a buck or two or whatever, it comes through in color. Ask a question with it. You come right to the front of the line. I can't miss it. So please feel free. I know there's a couple people out there today. Do the super chat thing, and I'll see it. If you're watching the show in rerun, please subscribe to the show right there. There is a subscribe to Stone Films NYC YouTube and the Instagram. Pick up your evil communication device and follow the show at Stone Films NYC at Instagram. Please, right now, reach over, give the show a like, a thumbs up, or whatever that is, so we can get in the analytics game here. So that said, that's what's up. And let's clear the deck. What the heck? Let's bring on our co-host. Hey, Joel.
Amen.
Great show so far, man.
Loving it. I've been
Yes.
so engrossed in the conversation that at one point you asked me to say something. I'm like, oh shit, yeah, I'm on this show.
I know. Yeah. Let's bring Merle Allin back on. Hey, man.
Hey,
Let me put everyone in the right spot there. You know what I wanted to mention, something that comes up a lot on this show, Merle, is because he's done so many of the classic New York hardcore records, is Don Fury. And Don Fury, is it fair to say, produced or recorded this record? Was this down in the basement of Spring Street? Where was this recorded?
I think it was Spring Street.
Yeah.
Wait. New York. Yeah. I think it was Spring Street. Yeah.
Any memories of recording this?
My God, yeah. Well, first of all, Don was a little hesitant,
Right.
He was like,
right.
But honestly, when Gigi was recording stuff and he was in a environment where, he had to behave himself and do his thing, he was all business, man. He was
Sure.
all about the record, Now,
Right.
if you put him in a setting where there's a lot of cocaine and a lot of drugs and people drinking and getting fucked up, well, of course he's going to do that, And he did that on the Freaks record and, like I said, the AIDS Brigade record. But he was sober as can be on the Brutality record. But yeah, Don was a little hesitant. And a funny story is that he was worried about Dino as well, because Dino likes to be naked, and he was like, there can't be any nudity in my studio, So
God forbid someone plays naked in the privacy of my studio, right?
I know, right? But yeah, the session was great. We just got right down to business and got it done. And there was a funny moment though that Don told me about, because didn't they do a documentary about him a couple of years ago? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So he contacted me, right? And he says to me, he says, I got a story to tell you that I never told you in the past. He's like, when Dino went into the bathroom one day to use the bathroom, he pooped on the floor.
Huh.
And he just left it there and he didn't clean it up. And Don said he went into the bathroom and there was this big pile of poop on the floor and he picked it up and put it in the toilet bowl and flushed it and never said anything, And so, yeah, I was like, what? But no, we were very well behaved. And
it's a great sounding record.
Oh, yeah.
That record is just, as I was doing a deep dive into the catalog, Joel said, I asked Joel, any as someone that really loves the catalog and the band, Joel, any recommendations? He said the career is incredibly bookended by the first and last record, and
right.
this I guess last record when Gigi was alive, I kept going back to it again and again. It's friggin' great. It sounds great. The songwriting's great. It's played well, and Don Fury really, it's Don Fury,
Yeah, he does a great job. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you listen to that first album and listen to Gigi's voice and listen to the poppy punk songs, and then you listen to the last record, you can tell that Gigi's had a rough life, man. He had a rough time, and that last record is, it's pretty brutal. It doesn't sound anything like that first record.
Right. Count Ralphus says, talk about the picture on the back cover. Is that the shot of you guys with Gigi? Here, thank you. Because I was let me hold that up. Let me get that.
Yep.
Yeah. So the record was done. I always thought the record was out before he passed. I guess not, huh?
Oh not at all. No.
Okay.
No.
What? Talk about the picture on the back cover. How was that taken?
The funny thing was, well, not funny, but, while we were on tour, like one of the last shows that we did was in Chicago, and me and Gigi and Liz, the girl that was with Gigi at the time, and one of Gigi's best friends, Sharon, we were all hanging out at Sharon's house, and we were like, lounging around on her bed, the four of us were just like hanging out, and we were talking about, we were talking about Gigi when he died and this, that, and the other, and so we knew that Gigi wanted to have like a party atmosphere at his funeral. He didn't want to have like a sad, normal, affair or whatever. So we had already talked about all that, and so we decided, okay, let's get him a bottle of Jim Beam and let's have a toast and have a party and play some music and, take some pictures and this, that, and the other. And that's what we did.
Makes sense. I wanted to ask, and I have this in my notes that I never even referenced, being that the show really took a life of its own. But one thing I noticed is that, like, looking at the footage and all this stuff, there was a lot of gals that were sort of drawn to Gigi Allin and the Mayhem. Looking at all the footage of this, and a lot of women, a lot of girls, women, were they really having a good time? I did notice that. Is that fair to say?
Wow, I wouldn't say that. I would say most of the women that came to our shows when Gigi was still alive were. Wow, how am I going to put this nicely? I guess I'm not. They were fucking fat fucking dog cows. They were like the grossest, ugliest fucking bitches on the fucking planet. Those are the kind of women that came to our show when Gigi was alive. And any of the hot chicks that came to our show wouldn't have nothing to do with us. Believe me.
I just from looking at the footage, I just see a lot of girls in the audience, a lot of girls having fun. So maybe that's just a misconception I have.
Yeah, I think so because honestly, when we started, like when we got back together in the 2000s, and we started touring and playing all the time, and we were playing our own material, and people started to finally realize, okay, they're not doing the Gigi act. They're doing their own act. They're playing their own songs. That's when girls would come to our shows. I mean, hell, I met my fucking last girlfriend that I was with for 8 years. I met her at a fucking Murder Junkies show when we were touring with Hank 3. I met her at the fucking Mandalay Bay. So,
wow.
Yeah, we got a lot more quality chicks after Gigi passed away.
Piacia Delic, how did the Murder Junkies link up with Kembra? Kembra Fowler. She's on that record. I mean, I could almost answer that. Being in New York City in the early '90s, is that Kembra was in
Karen Black.
Karen Black.
Yeah, and Kembra was a fixture in the Lower East Side back then. I mean, I saw her play many times, and Kembra doesn't get a lot of credit. She was a trailblazer back then. I saw her play many times, and her act was risque back then. For sure.
I saw her act a few times. Sure, yeah.
Let me jump in real quick because
Please.
It all kind of ties together. So, I have few regrets in life with anything I've done, but one regret I have actually involves the Murder Junkies. This goes back about 30 years ago. I was booking a show for the Misfits at a place called Action Park, an amusement park in Vernon, New Jersey. And we were trying to figure out who was going to open the show. And someone from the Misfits camp, who shall remain nameless, was like, you got to book Kembra and Karen Black. He had a crush on Kembra. He's like, she puts eggs on her pussy. It's going to be great. And I'm like, this is a water park in Vernon. I can't book the fucking voluptuous horror Karen Black. Fuck you. Right. So we're trying to figure this out. I don't know if you remember this, Merle, but you called me back then one night. And you're like, hey, man, is there a spot for the Murder Junkies on the Misfits show? And I had to turn you down because this wasn't too far past, Gigi's passing. And I'm like, what am I going to get myself into booking the Murder Junkies? I'm like, Merle, your drummer plays naked. You're like, no, I'll have, wear shorts. Trust me, it's going to be fine. I turned you down. And I remember you saying very distinctly, I just want to fucking play rock and roll, man. I just want to play in a fucking band. I'm tired of this shit. I just want to be a band. And I'm like, Merle, I'm sorry. This is like 3,000 underage kids at a fucking water park. I can't take.
We've always tried to get a gig with the Misfits. We've never been able to do that.
Well, I'll tell you, man, the whole point of this is looking back now and getting to know you a little bit better as the years went on. I regret it. You guys should have been on that bill.
Yeah, because we would have been fine. We would have behaved.
Yeah. And I realize now that was a huge mistake because I wanted to see the Murder Junkies on that bill. And knowing what I know now, it would not have been a problem, man. I would have hooked you guys up immediately. So that's me apologizing 30 years later. So
no big deal. No worries. Worries.
Fantastic. I think as we're kind of going here, we'll field a couple questions, kind of, because there's a lot of great. And here's Michael LaRoche. Why don't we just jump in with this? Is Merle touring this year, and is there going to be a grave show this summer?
Oh boy. Well, we normally don't do the anniversary shows until every 5 years. So last year, the year that I had my accident, I had my accident in April. We had a tour booked for the 30-year anniversary, which would have been 23. Yeah, that would have been 30 years, right? So we had a tour booked, and, I was fucked up, man. I couldn't fucking do anything. And I had my surgery in June. I had to cancel part of the tour. I started canceling okay, I'll cancel the first week or two and see if we can still do like 3 or 4 weeks instead of 6 weeks, And as, I went along, I wasn't progressing well enough to be able to get into a van. Well, Christ, I went to my first show just last week. So, and I had no headaches or anything. So I obviously was not in any shape to go on tour in 23. 24, well, basically what's happened to the band is, and it really sucks because we've had the same band lineup from 2007 to 2019. We had the same band. We were touring at least once every year, sometimes twice a year. We'd been to Europe 3 times. We'd been to Australia. We had recorded 3 new albums and a single, and we were playing all of our own material, And then Paul and Dwayne Rolick, our guitar player, they got to the point where they just hated each other's guts, So Paul quit the band. And right now we are searching either for a singer or a guitar player. So I might as well just fucking put it out there right now. We're hoping to go on tour in the fall, but we're auditioning a couple of people at the moment. But if there's anybody out there that thinks they're great enough to join the Murder Junkies, just fucking contact me on Facebook.
Right on. Camille Paradise says, "Thank goodness you're okay, Merle. We love you."
Oh, thank you.
There are people out there that love you, man. So
yeah, I got a lot of lovers. I have some haters too, but you know what?
Yeah.
If you don't have some haters, you're not doing something right. So.
Sure. There has to be a balance in this wretched universe of ours.
Exactly.
Let me. This one's coming from me. I just sort of so I understand. Like, people talk about these what do you call them, grave shows or whatever. I'm assuming, like, couldn't they be problematic when people come and into sort of into a graveyard like this? And I know not everybody's on their best behavior, and some people might think, Gigi would want this or that. Has there been problems doing these shows in this graveyard? Is this New Hampshire, right?
We don't actually play in the cemetery.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
We go to the cemetery, but the cemetery and the grave, that's a whole fucking book right there. God, I can give you the slimmed down version of it, but
please.
Basically, I designed the headstone with a little bit of help from my ex, Frederic. And the headstone was put into the cemetery in 1994. Then people started coming from all over the fucking world to see Gigi's grave. And, you got the people that, want to piss on it and shit on it and write stuff all over it and this, that, and the other, which, I mean, me and my mom had issues, because she was, obviously against all of that,
Yeah, sure.
I was kind of against it too, but on the other hand, I understood what people wanted to do, even though it was disrespectful, So basically what happened, the Catholic priest, the chief of police, the people that run the town of Littleton and the meetings and all of this and that and the other, they always brought up my brother's gravesite and all the problems that are happening there with people pissing on it. Well, and a lot of times they would go in and light, the veterans' flags on fire, not even Gigi stuff, just people around Gigi's grave. So they would destroy other people's graves and flags and shit like that. And so in 2010, the Catholic priest took the headstone. They said somebody knocked it off the platform or whatever. So they took the headstone and put it in the basement of the Catholic Church, and it ended up staying there for several years. Then my mom picked it up again, but they told my mom, they said, there's no way that Gigi's headstone is going back into the cemetery. And so the only way they would put it back in the cemetery was if they sanded down Gigi's side of the stone. And I was like, fuck you, you're not fucking sanding down nothing. My mother was all ready to go for it. And so me and my mother had a big battle over that, you know. And I said, look, you could sand down Gigi's side of the stone, but anybody that's going to go there, they're going to spray paint Gigi Allin all over it. So you're wasting your time doing that. You know? So basically what happened
listen, Mom, you might believe me. I know Gigi's fans, right? They're gonna come with a chisel and chisel it right in. They're gonna write it in crap. You're not gonna be able to.
Yeah. So basically what we did was I made a deal with my good friends from the Museum of Death out here in Hollywood. JD and Kathy, I put the headstone. The headstone is actually at the Museum of Death in Hollywood. And it's
you shipped it out there?
Yep.
Oh, fantastic. I didn't know that.
Yeah, the headstone is out here. Also, the clothing that Gigi died in, the Wrangler jacket, Liz's skirt, and the boots, they're all at the museum as well. And there's a statue, a figure of Gigi in a big glass container, and it's got the clothing on it and everything. So there's a whole section of just Gigi. There's a wall with artwork and letters and all the clothing and the headstone. So I figured, you know what? If it's not going back into the cemetery, I don't want to just take it and, you know, I wanted people to be able to see it.
Yeah.
So I figured, why not put it there, you know?
That makes a lot of sense. And I'm sure it's in a good place, and now it's accessible to people. Let me ask you a little show and tell here. What's the backstory with this shot here?
Whoa, show and tell. This the game we play when I want to say. Sorry. Oh my God, Rocky Erickson. Love that, man.
This is a great shot. What's the backstory? This is fantastic.
Okay, so 1992, all right, we're on tour, and we wanted to go visit Rocky. And we heard that if you contact his mother, because everything had to go through his mother, okay? So we heard if you contacted his mother, that she would talk with Rocky and she would set it up so we could go to his trailer and meet him. Okay. So we went through all the, you know, the channels of doing all that. And we show up at this trailer park in Austin, like behind this porno shop, you know. And it's fucking Rocky Erickson's fucking place. And oh my God, that was a really fucked up visit, man. Yeah. Okay. So he has so we're in his fucking trailer, right? He's got a TV in one room with only a picture. He's got a TV in another room that's all snow. He's got a TV in another room that's only, audio. And he hands Weber a guitar with like 3 strings on it. And he's like, hey, you want to play guitar? And like Weber's just, it was very uncomfortable because Rocky, as you know, was like, pretty crazy himself, you know? So you've got 3 people in a room that are totally fucking batshit nuts, right? You got Dino, Gigi, and fucking Rocky in a fucking trailer together. And, you know, I think after a few minutes, he got a little uncomfortable with us. And, but we didn't stay very long. We just hung out for a little while. and because we wanted to meet him, because we love Rocky,
Sure. That's one of those shots that's sort of legendary. And in the hardcore community, there's this one also, which is just so great, which is Gigi and the guys from the band Youth of Today, which is a straight edge band. They're like, they're a straight edge.
Okay. I didn't know who that was. I've seen that picture many times, and I was like, I wonder who these people are that Gigi's with. That's Youth of Today?
Yeah, the guy on the left is Ray Capo, who has like the number one yoga and spiritual podcast in the country right now. And that's Purcell next to them. At the time they had a band, Youth of Today. They both play in the band Shelter, and Purcell's in Judge.
I recognize Ray's name, but I don't know any of those guys. I mean, it's obviously a different scene than what we're into, but
yeah. And it's always been like, how did these two worlds collide? It's always been, people have always been like, holy shit, is this, So that's a great one.
Okay, Youth of Today. Okay.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I have a few pictures of Gigi with people that I have no idea who they are, So.
Hey, have you seen your hardcore trading card?
No.
Here, let me show you.
I don't think so.
Yeah, there's here you go. This is the front. Pretty cool. Here's the front. There you go. Pretty nice. And the back is pretty detailed. He really does his
Is that like a whole series of like different musicians on like baseball card type thing?
Yeah. And this is the back. It has like Malpractice, all the bands you were in, Gigi and the Jabbers, City Thrills, Cheater Slicks, Lion in the Winter. Yeah. And like a baseball card, it says personal trivia. The nickname Gigi was given by young Merle. Gigi's birth name was Jesus Christ Allin. And at 3 years old, Merle couldn't pronounce Jesus, so he would call his brother Gigi, which became Gigi. After his mother divorced their father, she changed his name to Kevin Michael Allin. But the nickname Gigi always stuck.
Yeah. That's funny, man. That's great.
Yeah.
I've never seen that. How do you get something like? How would I get something like that?
He's probably watching the show. Hey, Josh, if you're watching, please reach out to Merle. And then of course there's the Gigi card. I got the Gigi card. Let me show you that one. Where is it? Here it is. I mean, the Gigi card is pretty intense, of course.
Sure.
In the moment. Here you go. The Gigi card. There's Gigi.
Yeah.
And then and let me show you the back. The back is, he really does his homework and does a good job with these things. And
that's a show from the fast lane. A shot from the fast lane.
Yeah. You recognize that?
Yeah.
You know what caught my eye here is on the back of Gigi's card. There's Gigi Allin and the Scumfucks and the Texas Nazis. A lot of Gigi Allin. And did these bands kind of like come together and then sort of last a gig or two and then just blow apart in an act of chaos and anarchy?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Gigi Allin was the Chuck Berry of punk rock. So he would get on a bus and travel here, there, and everywhere. And he would get off the bus and some band would meet up with him and they might rehearse. They might not rehearse.
I see.
They might not know any of Gigi's songs and they might just jam and Gigi might just do like a spoken word or go off on a tangent of his own, or they would learn some of his songs and he would play along with them, or sometimes he would just play with an actual recording, playing the music, and he would sing over that.
I think
so,
that's
yeah, most of these bands were like, one-offs, or they might have played a couple of shows together or whatever. Other than there was a band called the Disappointments that was a Michigan band. They played with him and actually did tours, like small tours with him and stuff like that. And a band in Chicago called the Toilet Rockers, who would normally played with him when he played shows in Chicago.
I see. So
And just to add to that, one of those bands was the Holy Men. That's the band on the album "You Give Love a Bad Name" by Gigi. The bass player in the Holy Men was Mike Kirkland, who was in Damage, who people remember from back in the day. He was also in Prong for a few years, but he's on that Holy Men record.
And Mike Edison, the drummer, was in Sharky's Machine and various other New York bands. I think he used to write for Screw Magazine.
Right.
Mike Edison. Yep.
And I think Thurston Moore and Jay Mascis played with Gigi at various points, right?
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Well, I have this.
Too much about that, but
this was in my archive from when Thurston Moore was on my show recently at the Cat Club in New York City. Gigi Allin and the Super Scum featuring Thurston Moore and a couple others. Yeah.
Okay, so you know what's funny? I saw Sonic Youth. This would have been 2000. I was still living in New York, so it was before 2010. It was around that time period, and it was at a big venue. I forget the name of the venue. Actually, they were opening for Rocky Erickson. Yeah, that's what it was.
Wow.
And Thurston Moore was playing, and I didn't have my glasses on, and I can see without them, but I couldn't really see faces on the stage because I was standing quite a ways back, And when Thurston Moore was playing, I kept looking at the guitar player and thinking to myself, God, that looks like Chris Brokaw, who actually was the guitar player in the AIDS Brigade. So after Thurston's set, I noticed like somebody talking in a group of people not too far from where I was standing, right? And I looked over and I was like, no fucking shit, that looks like fucking Chris Brokaw. So I walked over, and sure as fucking shit, it was Chris, who was the guitar player in the AIDS Brigade. He was playing with Thurston, and I hadn't seen him in like fucking years, So that's my story. Anyway, go ahead.
A getter from when Thurston Moore was on the show. He said Gerard Cosley punked out and didn't play the show. He said said that when he was on the show. So Gerard Cosley, Conflict Zine, yeah. Yeah,
but Cosley was there because Gigi pissed on him.
There you go. There you go.
The video says somebody's yelling, Gigi just pissed on Cosley. Gigi just pissed on Gerard. I'm like, oh, great, cool.
Hey, we're going to take before we take a very quick sponsor break and come back and take questions from around the world. I want to ask about, I watched the Todd Phillips film, and were you, Merle, the family, were you happy with this? The way that kind of, I mean, it is a significant, important it is a moment of time that I thought was, really, as being a documentary filmmaker, I thought in a certain regard, it was pretty great that somebody had the perspective to document a lot of this stuff. What are your feelings towards this all these years later?
Yeah, I mean, I met Todd. Todd was working at fucking Kim's Video Store, which was, the alternative video store where you could go and see, pick up like B movies and picked up foreign films and shit like that. So I went there. I used to go there every day and rent videos and bring them home and tape them and blah, blah, bring them back and whatever. And Todd was working there. So we became, acquaintances. And he asked me when he realized who I was, if I could hook him up with Gigi so he could, work on a documentary or whatever. And I was like, yeah, sure, of course, So, I mean, I'm happy with it, but it kind of pisses me off because that was like Todd's like fucking student fucking film, right?
Yeah.
And all the fucking movies that fucking guy ever made, he never put one of our fucking songs in a fucking movie. That kind of pisses me off. Because of the kind of movies he was making, our music would have been fine for something like that.
Sure. I mean, and he went on. I think he
never threw us a fucking bone at all, man. What an asshole.
He directed the Hangover movies, right? And
exactly.
the guy does big films now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, he never reached out to me one time to ask if they could use one of our songs in a fucking movie.
It's a rare person in Hollywood that remembers where they came from and revisits that. It is, believe me, I know of these matters. It is extremely rare that a band or a director or a lot of these people, they go to the next thing and just they feel like the way to become successful is to leave the past behind. Don't bring anyone up with you and move forward and not sort of reach back to those that were there early on and supported them early on. It's an anomaly when somebody fucking, pulls someone up with them.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. Hey, let me take a quick sponsor break. You guys, and we'll be back in a minute and we'll take some questions from around the world. Okay.
Cool.
All right. Joel, see you in a minute. All right. New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. It's question time. Go deep, get word. Get word. We'll do at least 20 minutes. Like I said, we are sponsored by blah, 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 and 126 Hardcore Clothing. They're a streetwear brand for restless individuals who don't compromise. They're about being positive, spontaneous, and true to yourself. For years, they experimented with several printing methods and materials and collaborated with a large number of designers and illustrators, always giving room for fresh perspectives while retaining the hardcore attitude. Get in touch with them. Ramp up your game at www.126clothing.com. Last but not least, the Texas Silver Rush is a jewelry design firm and boutique store located in the birthplace of the Texas country music scene in Fredericksburg, Texas. They specialize in working with musicians in all music genres to design and create unique one-off pieces, as well as to style them for stage, album covers, promo photos, and social media exposure. Their client list includes rock and roll Hall of Famers Greg Rowley, Ringo Starr, and of course, Agnostic Front. Information and online sales are being taken at their Facebook and Instagram pages, and of course, www.texassilverrush.com. Hey, want to mention a couple of upcoming events. Here we go. A couple of upcoming events. A week from this Sunday, of course, listen, just a reminder, a couple days from now, this Sunday, Dave Lombardo will be on the show. And then a week from this Sunday, back where it all began, in the Magic Room, the A7, birthplace of New York Hardcore, Incendiary Device. It's going to jump off tonight. We are playing with Crazy Eddie. This is a free show. As of right now, it's 21 plus. We are trying to change that. Come on down. It's going to be epic. Sunday, March 16th, the Back to the New York Hardcore Roots series at the, this one is at Berlin. Free all ages Sunday matinee in the Lower East Side. Hub City Stompers, Rebelmatic, Ancient Domains, Daija, and Ill Raised. So come on down. All this is happening. Just also a reminder, please support the show. There is a Patreon page. There's a PayPal address right there. Do a super chat. I don't care what you do. Just support the show. I don't care what team you support. I don't care who you voted for. I don't care. All I care, just support the show. Okay? That said, I think we kind of covered everything. It's question time. Go deep, get weird. Let's bring back. You like that, huh? Go deep, get weird. Right?
With this fucking episode? Yeah.
Yeah. Go deep, get weird. And let's bring Merle back on. Hey, oh wow, look at that.
So this is a photo. This is a photo from me when I lived in Vermont.
Right. What kind of what is it? What kind of bass amp is that? Is that an old Fender bass amp? What is that?
Yeah, it sure is. Yep.
Yeah.
Fender bass amp. Yep.
The old Fender bass amp. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Those things were brutal.
I graduated to the SVTs. You know, I had to have like 2 8x10 cabs, right, with the SVT head, right, and. You know, we had to bring all of our equipment to every show because the more equipment you had, the louder you could play, and the louder you could play, the better you were, right?
There you go. Let's field a couple of questions here. This one's coming from big friend and supporter Jimmy Ferrari, the Brooklyn Blast Furnace, of course, Delta Bravo. Has Merle ever walked around the Barker Ranch? I want to go in July.
You know, I've never been to the Barker. I've been to Spawn Ranch several times. I've never been to Barker Ranch, and I do plan on going out there at some point. There's a guy out here called Stoner Van Houten, and he does tours of Spawn Ranch, and he takes people to Barker Ranch. So
is the Barker Ranch still there in any capacity? Or just the
I have no idea. I've never been. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But Spawn Ranch, you can go and you can sit underneath the big rock where you know the whole family had the picture taken and everything. You could sit on the big rock where Manson auditioned for
Dennis Wilson
what the fuck? What's
from the
his
Beach
name?
Boys?
Well, no, he auditioned
Lou Adler?
Terry Melcher.
Melcher. Yeah, Melcher.
Oh,
thank
right.
you. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Jimmy Fry says, "I know Stoner. Let's go, Merle." Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. Stoner kicks ass, man.
Yeah. Let's see. Well, is Kra in Poland? We kind of know the answer to this, but let's field it. Are there any questions? Is there any chance to see Merle in Europe, specifically Poland?
Oh boy. Well, we played in Europe in 2005, 2006, and 2008. We have been trying to go back there, but for some reason, it's not the same as it was. Well, first of all, flights are a lot more expensive now. So I don't know. I hope we're going to get back to Europe. I really want to. It's just a question of whether or not, we can go over there and even make a little bit of money.
I assume that when Gigi was around, going to Europe was just an utter impossibility due to his record and stuff, right?
Well, a funny story is when we went to Australia. Gigi was never were allowed to leave the country. He did play in Canada one time in Montreal, but when we were going to Australia, we got to the border. We got to the airport, and they almost didn't let us into Australia because they did a search of us, and they checked on the internet, and they came back and said, well, one of your members has been in prison. And I said, yeah. I said, but that guy's been dead for 30 years. They were talking about Gigi, so they went back and re-looked at everything and were like, yeah, you can come in now, so.
Canada is such a roll of the dice sometimes,
Yeah.
Joel, you got anything? A question?
Well, not really a question, but a statement. You were talking about your mom earlier. I just wanted to mention what a sweetheart she was. She'd come out to those death anniversary shows and was always really wonderful and talking to people there. And rest in peace to her. She was always a sweet person. It was always really nice to see her out at those events.
Yeah.
And it's that's a photo I took of your mom at the I guess that would be 2010, maybe 2013.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And what's funny,
she always introduced the band and everything, and she got a kick out of the whole thing. Did she?
Did she eventually sort of kind of my perception is eventually she just realized what a legacy her son created for himself.
Yeah, I mean, it was rough for her because, she worked at the hospital. She was like one of the, upstanding citizens in the community,
Yeah.
and every time we would go up there, they would run an article in the paper and, they'd have to talk about Gigi defecating on stage and doing this, doing that. So, I felt bad for her, but, we had to do it. I mean, but we tried to shelter her as much as we could, throughout the whole thing. But she knew what was going on.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. GXS. Wow. Gigi Allin, whole career in the USA and one show in Canada. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yep. The kid that does the cards said I sent a message about the cards to Merle on Facebook. So just a heads up on that, Merle, when the show's over. Now, John Coletti, who was involved, I don't know if you remember the Anthrax in Boston, in Connecticut, the Anthrax Club. John Coletti asks, Merle, Merle, do you know anything about the strips? I'm going to read it verbatim. Okay, Merle, know anything about the Strip Search, Gigi on drums, and Emily XYZ vocal single I found once, and the first time I heard of Gigi was reading letters from prison in the 80s, Connecticut. My friend was a DJ, and Gigi listened to his show letters. Hey, bro, let me tell you. Hey, John, if you're going to fucking write a comment to the show, how about making it goddamn fucking legible, bro? How about English legible so I could read it on the show? But he did send me a picture of it. I don't know what this is. Maybe somebody out there knows what this is. Anybody?
What is that?
Emily XYZ on vocals, Gigi Allin drums, Al Chappelle bass, Fogarty guitar.
I guess him and Al played on one of her records or something. I don't really know much about her, but I know he did do a single with her. Yeah.
I guess that's what that is.
Yep.
Yeah.
All
right.
Record. I don't recognize. Yeah, I recognize the actual record, but not the cover. The cover looks foreign to me. It looks like a homemade thing.
Yeah. All right, Coletti. John, I'm just busting your balls. Let me see what else we got. Well, kind of a dark. I think we can handle this. Kind of a dark one, but is it true Gigi wanted to kill himself on stage during a show?
Oh God, yeah. That was public knowledge. He would post that and send like, articles to Maximum Rock and Roll and Flipside and shit like that. Oh yeah, he wanted to kill himself. Well, when he first said he was going to do it, it was October 31st, 1990. But that was before he went to prison. And of course, on October 31st, 1990, he was still in prison, so he couldn't kill himself on stage, right? So when he got out, everybody was like, "Well, I thought you were going to kill yourself." I'm like, "Well, yeah." But, and I'm sure if he had lived long enough that he probably would have done it,
Yeah.
I told him I didn't want to be on stage when he did it, but,
that's tough, man. I can't.
Yeah, he definitely was planning on doing that. And I'm sure he probably would have taken out a bunch of people with him. So
makes sense.
Never.
Right.
On one hand, it's a good thing it didn't happen. But my God, if he had done that, just think of the fucking publicity we would have gotten for that. Holy fuck, man.
There you go. Count Ralphus says, I own a letter from Henry Lee Lucas written to Merle. Ask Merle about his collection of serial killer memorabilia. And that also ties in with Michael LaRose says, Merle, let everyone know they can go to your house and buy stuff. So let's kind of segue into sort of serial killer memorabilia collection. How How can people see that, access that, anything for sale, that type of thing?
Okay, well, I basically sold my collection, like the documentary that came out, the All in the Family one.
Mm-hmm.
If you saw that, you would see the house that I lived in at the time. I had a 3-bedroom house I was living in, and I was the only one living in it. And I was paying crazy money to store all of my collectibles, right? So I decided it's time to sell all my shit. So I have, over the course of the last 8 to 10 years, I've sold off pretty much my whole collection. And I'm down to a 1-bedroom apartment now. So I still have a few letters here and there. I have some Eileen Warnos letters. I just sold my Unabomber letter. I have, basically what I have now is stuff that other people have owned, but they're trying to sell it. So some people will contact me and ask me if I want to help them sell it, and they'll give me a cut of it. And because I know more people in in that circle than they do, then, it works out for everybody, But my collection has been sold off piece by piece. And You know what? That's my 401k, baby.
There you go. Good for you. Kenny's go ahead. I'm sorry.
I started collecting just as a hobby, right? I didn't never in my wildest dreams did I ever imagine that serial killer collecting would be such a business, And so basically, when I realized what I had, I figured I might as well sell it all off. And, after you've had something for 10 or 20 years on your wall, it's time to let somebody else enjoy it. And that's basically what I've done,
Yeah. I always figure I got rid of tons and tons of my stuff too. It's just, I'd rather have it in the hands of people that are going to cherish it and enjoy it. Really.
Exactly.
A lot of this stuff for me was in a box. It's sort of, to me, it's more important. And I think I could speak for you too. And you want it to be with people that just love it and cherish it. And especially for you with the Gigi stuff, right?
And then when they get tired of it, they'll do the same thing, and they'll, so yeah, I mean.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's see what else. What else we got here? Good questions. Oh yeah, this was asked a couple times. Let me feel this. If I can find the exact question. If not, I'll just paraphrase. The D.D. Ramone sort of Murder Junkies short-lived tenure. How did Dee get involved? How did that play out?
Oh my God. So when I moved to New York in 1990, right? I mean, it was like I was living in the village, right? So I would see, Dee. You would see, Joey. Hell, I lived like 10 blocks away from Joey. I would see Joey all the time. People from Blondie's band, people from the Dictators. This was in the early 90s when there was still a community before fucking douchebag fucking Giuliani fucking, made the city into fucking Disneyland, right? And then everybody, once everybody, the prices of everything went up and the apartments, were no longer affordable for musicians and artists, and everybody kind of had to split and go in different directions, from Queens to Brooklyn to Jersey, wherever, But in the early 90s, it was still a community, and all that was still happening, So we would see Dee walking around and stuff. So we put an ad in the Village Voice. We were looking for a guitar player, and Bill Weber, called for the audition. And one day my phone rang and it was fucking Dee Ramone. I nearly shit my pants, man. I nearly fucking fell off my chair, right? I was like, are you fucking kidding me? So, I mean, I said that to myself. I was cool with Dee Dee, you know. But as soon as I got off the phone with Dee Dee, I called my brother up, and the two of us just started fucking cracking up. We were like, what the fuck? Dee Dee fucking Ramon. He thought I was kidding. He thought I was joking him, you know.
And you've rehearsed with him a couple times, and
we rehearsed with him a bunch of times. You know, it really sucks. We never took pictures except for that one rehearsal that we got on video.
When I played in the beginning, yeah.
He would come over to my apartment and we'd teach him songs and stuff. And, you know, so the audition day came along and, you know, Dee Dee and Weber are both there. And, you know, after the audition, me and Gigi were like, well, we got to keep Weber because Weber's fucking amazing, man. And then we were like, and we got to keep Dee Dee too, because who the hell is going to tell Dee Dee that they can't play in his band, in our band, you know? So, and it was cool. It was great hanging out with him because, you know, the Ramones were one of our biggest influences, you know? So, it was really fun, you know, but you know, when it got closer to getting ready to go on, because Dee Dee's excuse was, well, you know, I just wanted to play with somebody where I didn't have any responsibilities, you know, and where I could just have fun, you know. And we were thinking to ourselves, I don't think he's going to have much fun with us.
Yeah. Dee Dee was very accessible. Like, I mean, I knew him back then too. You'd see him, you go downtown to the Alcatraz. You'd see Dee Dee 2-3 times a night down there. You know, when we were, he was a guy who was a man of the streets. Dee Dee was around a lot back then, man.
Yeah,
you know?
he was definitely. Yeah.
Is that right? Were you in Nutley? Our good friend and supporter Biv from Ancient Domains. Merle, what did you think of Nutley, New Jersey?
I left my nut there. That's all I can say about Nutley. Yeah, fuck Nutley, man. Nutley sucked.
Yeah, I think that's what he was getting at.
Jersey in general sucks.
Hey, man, Nutley had Ralph's Pizza at least.
Yeah.
You ever go to Ralph's Pizza in Nutley?
I don't recall that. No.
No.
Who was Kenny Rarities? Who was peeing in the beginning of the song "Pool of Piss"?
Probably Dino.
Right.
Probably Dino. Because
Dino
Dino
has his dick out all the time anyway.
Yeah, Dino's dick is always out, and he doesn't care who films it. So, you know, it had to be Dino.
LaRoche asks, how's Dino doing after the cancer bullshit?
Dino is fine. Well, he had a stroke, and then he had cancer, but he's fine. I mean, he has a problem speaking. Like, he can't speak as clearly as he used to be, you know, as he once did, but he could still play drums, man. Yeah. Yep. Hey, and he can still get his dick hard when he takes his Viagra. So
there you go. Hey, Tommy Coates. Speaking of Jersey, check out Merle on Soft White Underbelly on YouTube. It's a great interview. It's his life story. So yeah, check that out. I checked that out as well, doing research for the show. Very well done. Good, very good interview.
Yeah, I have like 2 of them. I have 3 of them actually. There's 3 interviews.
Mm-hmm.
There's the Gigi, the Gigi era, the post Gigi, and the serial killer.
Right on. As we head down the home stretch a little bit here, a couple more questions. I'm not sure. I'll read this verbatim. Has Merle seen the tribute anthology book, This Blood's for You, featuring bizarro horror stories based on Gigi and Merle's antics? It's pretty good. Came out around 2014-15, published by Weird Punk Books.
Yeah, I think I had my hands on that a few times. But you know, the problem with me is when I get my hands on something, it doesn't stay in my hands very long because it's always for sale.
Yeah.
Right, Joel?
Right.
Everything that I own is for sale.
Let me add something to that. Years ago, Drew had he had that Rocky Erickson photo. I bought a poster size print of that from you.
Yeah.
And I remember it arrived at my house, and the return address sticker. Usually, there's a photo attached when people have those made, like flowers or something. What did you have? The Pogo the Clown from Gacy next to your address. I'm like, perfect.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I mean, pretty much. I mean, I post all my stuff on Facebook for sale, and then I invite people to come to my apartment. Anybody that comes to Southern California is all you have to do is contact me on Facebook, make an appointment. You can come to my apartment and buy stuff, and I'll sign stuff for you and take pictures and all that kind of shit.
Are you still doing the art, Merle?
The poop art?
Yeah. Yeah, the poop art.
I haven't done any poop art in a while. It's a little bit harder to sell than my regular marker art. So I do more marker art now because it's easier to sell and it doesn't give me a headache when I'm making it.
Thank you, RS. Respects to South Cali. Absolutely. Hey,
but if anybody really wants one of my poop art paintings, I'm more than happy to make one for you.
Absolutely. We'll squeeze one out for you.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, good question, Steve Rails. I like this one. Hey, Merle, what do you think Gigi would be doing today if he survived? You think he would have mellowed out or just got more outrageous? It's a good question.
I think that if Gigi hadn't died in 93, he probably would have died again in 95. He probably would have died again in 98. He probably would have died like several times over by now, one way or the other. I guess I could imagine Gigi doing like some outlaw country shit. I mean, he did do that Carnival of Excess CD, and God, everybody loves that. That's like I think that's one of people's favorite Gigi records.
It's great.
That country record he did.
It's great.
Really,
and I love, I love the Warren Zevon song, his version of the Warren Zevon. It's fantastic. Yeah. It's really great.
So I think he would have been arrested again. I think he would have been dead again. And if he had survived for a number of years, I think he would have done the country thing, but then again, he probably would have killed himself on stage by now too, So I don't think Gigi really wanted to live to be very old because I figure that he probably realized the damage that he had done to his body probably wouldn't make for a very good living in old age.
I mean, sadly, he passed. He was young. He was a young man. He wasn't in his 40s, 50. He was a young man.
36. Yeah, 36. Yeah.
Someone sent this to me today. Is there any context to this?
Pee-wee. Well,
you and Pee-wee. What's this about?
I used to go to a lot of horror conventions, and of course the biggest one in that area at the time was Chiller Theater, right?
Of course, still.
Yeah, still, yeah. And it started in 1990, and I was at the first Chiller Theater. I knew Kevin a little bit,
sure,
but so Kevin always made sure that I got a pass. A vendor's pass, so I didn't have to wait online, and I didn't have to, leave the building and then wait online to get back into the building or wait to get a ticket or this, that, and the other. So we would go to all the horror conventions, and Pee-wee was just at one of the conventions, and I just got a picture with him,
Yeah, Kevin's still doing it, man. He's still doing it.
I know he is. Yeah. But the early conventions were the best because it was still new and fresh, and people were still able to bring cool stuff to the convention before the tables got really expensive, and everybody started selling the same shit so they could make more money. Blah blah
Yeah, yeah.
blah. You know
Yeah,
how
it's
it is.
it's it's changed, quite a bit. There's two a year. The one right before Halloween, I like to go. I'll go to that one, But the other one, it's
They have in
almost just
April. Yeah, the other
it's
one they
it,
have like in April, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a flea market. It's not. It doesn't have much of a vibe, but we enjoy them. We go me and some of my crew, and we go. We still enjoy doing a walk. There's always a couple people we know doing it. I did it one year. When I put out the Alago film, I did it with Michael Alago. It's still enjoyable. I like
Well,
Kevin too.
what I would do, I would fill my trunk of my car full of merchandise, right?
Uh-huh.
And I would walk around the convention, and because I went every year, everybody knew that I would be there, right? And they all knew me, so people would just randomly come up to, hey Merle, what'd you bring?
Yeah.
What did you bring to sell this year?
Sure.
I'm like, oh, come out to my car, and we'd go out to my car, and I'd sell them, some T-shirts and some vinyl, whatever,
Yeah.
And I mean, I would walk out of the convention not spending any money. I would have probably made more money than I spent at the convention,
Yeah, and
So
that's right, Vincent Vlado, like you, who we always see there. And yeah, Ralphus, nobody charged more than $20 an autograph. You go now, and there's like these, people are charging $250 an autograph, and
it's
it's
insane. It's
yeah,
ridiculous,
it's bizarre,
dude.
man.
When I was going, Bill Moseley and Gunner, Leatherface, you could walk up to their table and there'd be nobody at their table. You could sit there and talk with them for like, as long as you wanted to,
Go ahead,
You know who was like the sweetest person ever at Chiller Theater? Merle, were you there? The year they had Karen Black. It was like 2003.
No, what year was that?
It had to have been like 2003. She was there promoting House of a Thousand Corpses, the zombie movie.
Yeah. I
And
remember when she was there. Yeah.
what a sweetheart. My all-time favorite horror movie is Burnt Offerings, the one she did with Oliver Reed.
Yes, of course.
So I have an original theatrical poster from that. My dad found it on eBay, gave it to me for Christmas one year. And I brought that to have her sign it. And she was so thrilled that somebody remembered that movie. She must have talked to me for like 20 minutes to the point where like I'm feeling bad for the people behind me. But she wouldn't let me go. She's like, oh, then I filmed this scene, then I did that. But you're right. Like the last time I went to Chiller Theater, it was way overcrowded, expensive.
Yeah, and they don't have time to like spend with you, like spend 10 or 15 minutes talking to you because they get to the next person so they can make more money. Yeah.
Is that right?
Like,
The first couple of chillers, no one charged. Then why would they be there? How would they make money if no one charged?
They were charging. They charged.
Yeah.
I was at the first chiller. They charged. Oh yeah, but they got the best guests. Like Herschel Gordon Lewis was one of the first ones. Diane Thorne from the Ilsa movie. She was at one of the ones. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, I still enjoy them and still support them. We go. We have a nice walkthrough. So Kevin's been good to us. So we like Kevin. Michael LaRoche asks, Merle, a compilation with singers like Choke or Corey Taylor covering Gigi songs and you playing bass would be fucking awesome. Any thoughts of ever kind of like putting together, like once again, we'll use the word tribute, like putting together like a tribute type an all-star thing, Merle? And any thoughts on that ever?
I mean, there's been so many Gigi tribute CDs that have come out in the last 30 years. If I did do one, I would want to do one with like some well-established bands, and then you got to run into the problem of who owns the rights to this song and who owns the rights to that song, and then I want to get paid for this and blah blah blah, and it's like, I just never entertained that thought because it's just been done so many times, with other bands and stuff. But if it could be done with some really quality bands, it would be great. But
sure,
I I never really. I mean, I'm not opposed to the idea. I just never had anybody really. I probably need somebody to help me with it. So,
Joel, you got anything as we head down the home stretch?
Yeah, I just want to clarify real quick. I wasn't dissing tour theater as far as being like overpriced and all that. It's just changed over the years.
yeah.
It's great that there's still a brick and mortar location like that people can kind of congregate and hang out. So, more respect to Kevin for keeping that going. It's just a personal taste thing for me. I prefer the older days.
Yeah. I mean, me too. I mean, I'm happy that he's still doing it, and he's always been great to me. So yeah, I wasn't trying to diss him either. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have vended there in the past. It was always a cool experience, but
Yep.
I guess because I'm getting older, I just don't like to get jammed in crowds trying to get to a table. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Somebody asked if this is a Raven shirt. Yes, it fucking is. Along with metal. And I don't know. Well, let me ask you this, Merle, because you and Gigi produced a lot of music together. It might be a hard question, might be the easiest one you've heard today. Is there a particular song or album that when you want to connect with him now that he's gone? Is there one that you reach for more than any other?
Well, I mean, Brutality for sure. I mean, if Brutality hadn't come out, that would have been the end of everything. We wouldn't be here today doing this. But one of my favorite records is the AIDS Brigade single, the one we did, the Gypsy Motherfucker and Expose Yourself to Kids. That's one of my favorites.
Right on.
Yeah, great era.
Yeah.
Merle, just last one. Like, what does the future hold? What are your hopes and dreams for the future? What do you got? What are you looking at?
Okay. Well, we are still. We have a script written for a movie. We're still looking for some funding to make a movie. There's a script already been written by Richard. What the hell is his last name? Schreckman or some Hollywood writer. So there is a script. There's talk about Jonas Ackerland that did Lords of Chaos.
Sure. Yep.
There's talk of him directing it. So I know I'm surprised somebody hasn't asked me about that today, because I get that question all the fucking time. When's the movie coming out? When's the movie coming out?
Right.
Well,
Right.
It's still, we're still trying to get funding for it. We started this whole thing, and then the pandemic came along, and that really fucked everything up.
Yeah.
It fucked up the Murder Junkies, that's for sure, because we had a tour already booked of South America in 19, and like couple months before we were supposed to go on tour, the pandemic came, so they had to cancel our tour, and we haven't played since. So we're hoping to get the band back on the road again. I'm still writing material, if we ever find the right singer or the right guitar player, either or. See, the thing is, our guitar player can sing or play guitar. So we're looking for either singer or a guitar player.
But he can't do both.
No, we need a front man. We need an actual.
Right. Yeah.
So that's basically
that makes sense.
Yeah. And other than that, just trying to stay alive a little bit longer.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Merle, thank you so much. It was a fantastic show. Joel, love when you're on with me, man. I really enjoy the shows when you're on, Joel, because I'm like, part of it is I'm a spectator enjoying the show, enjoying you with people. And Merle, thank you so much. And if there's anything that we could do here in New York, if you guys are coming this way to play, or if there's anything I could do, if you have something going on, you're always welcome to come back. Is there anybody anybody want to thank or shout out? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just want to say that like I said, if anybody's interested in any, paraphernalia or merchandise or whatever, you can hit me up on Facebook. Like I said, you can come to my apartment if you're in Southern California or if you're visiting or whatever. Yeah, other than that, don't forget to wash your hands. Don't forget to wipe your ass. And don't forget scum fucks for life.
Thanks, Merle. I'll talk to you soon, man.
Take it easy,
All right.
man.
There. Yep.
Bye. Woo! Yeah, it was great, man. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for bringing that to fruition. It was a fantastic guest, and we always have a little concern that there might be some interlopers or some weird stuff, and there was none of that today. Thanks everybody in the chat room. People really turned out in droves for today's show, and a lot of smart questions were asked, and we appreciate that, man.
Well, I mean, that's what it is, Drew. I mean, you and I have been talking about this for a while, and we've been talking to Merle about this for a while. The thing is, for me, it's important to talk about the music side of things too. I think sometimes that gets lost in the legend.
Yes.
But, I mean, we're talking about a pair of brothers who are tremendous players. And I think that's got to be acknowledged, with any of this conversation about the history. And, I was happy to hook this up. I've wanted to make good with Merle for 30 years over that Misfits thing. So the fact that I can finally pull this together for him, makes me feel better because I've had that on my mind for 30 years.
Yeah. And, we're knocking him out. We got this guy on the show coming up, on Sunday. So, right back at it with Dave Lombardo, who's got quite a resume. So that should be really interesting as well. Anybody you want to thank? Anybody you want to shout out?
Yeah, definitely. I know he's come up a couple of times during the show, but I got to give props to Joshua Hurst, the Hardcore Legends trading card creator. He made a card for me a couple of weeks back. So I'm officially part of that series, which I'm honored to be a part of. My parents were thrilled, Joshua. So you made my day and their day. So I appreciate you for that. And doing this whole series, man, it's a great thing you're doing. And you just did a beautiful card for my friend Rick Agnew that came out great. So keep up the great work. We love that. And it's such a great concept. Wish you well with it.
Cool. And thank you so much. And I just was thinking, you are co-hosting with me. Is it this one? Yeah.
Yep.
You're co-hosting with me when Carl's back on the show.
Yeah, you bet. That's going to be another good one. Carl's a great guest. I've had him on my podcast. Sweetheart of a guy, has great history with hardcore and metal. So we'll be hitting a lot of different areas on that one.
And am I hearing right that you're doing a Mike Watt interview? Is that coming up on your channel?
Well,
was I not supposed to say that?
No, we'll talk about it. The world of rock and roll is fairly unpredictable, as Drew knows, doing this for so long. But if all goes well, Watt and I are actually going to be talking tomorrow morning for my YouTube channel, which I'd like to share if I could, Drew. It's
of course.
Glory is Noise TV. That's GLORY is Noise TV on YouTube. I'm talking to Watt tomorrow. If that goes well, it'll probably be up this weekend. I just posted one with Chris Spedding, the great Chris Spedding. He produced the Sex Pistols back in '76. We get into that. That video has been getting like 300 views an hour the past couple of days, so it's going really well. And so Watt's coming on. There's some other people of interest that I can't quite announce yet, but Watt's going to be the next guy on the channel for sure.
Yeah. Priscilla, thanks for answering my Kembra Fowler question. Was always curious how they mixed up on Brutality Budget. Listen, just to reiterate, Kembra was a staple of the Lower East Side back then. She was in that kind of circle. Her, Dee Dee, Don Fury. We'd see fucking Johnny Thunders every night. Yeah. I spent. I'll be conservative here. 5 years of my life standing on the corner of Avenue A and 7th Street. And in those 5 years, 80 87 to 93, whatever it was, man, we would see back then. It was still a little spicy down there. We'd see the same people. We'd see Dee Dee two times a night. We'd see Johnny. What's up? That kind of stuff. So,
the best thing I ever saw Kembra do was there was a series. I don't know if you guys remember it out there called Disinformation. It was this guy, Richard Metzger. He was the host of that. I think it was a BBC series. It was like weird and odd people. It was a cool show. And they had a whole episode with Kembra, and she had broken up with her boyfriend at the time. So to express her sorrow, she sewed her vagina shut on the show.
My Lord.
Yeah.
For real?
So that's what sticks out of my mind over Kembra.
One of Rochelle's, my wife's really good friends is Alice, I think. She is one of Kembra's like dancers, or one of the she's been with her for many years. One of the she's part of her act.
We were supposed to play with them when I was in the Undead. We were supposed to play Tompkins Square Park with them.
Yeah. And
there's actually posters made. The guy that does the Garbage Pail Kids did the poster for that show, actually.
Wow, very cool.
Joe Simcoe. And they canceled like at the last minute for some reason. And David Peel took their spot on the show. But I would have loved to have played with Voluptuous Horror Karen Black. And like I said, there was a member of the Misfits back in the 90s who had a very unhealthy obsession with her. I can't say who it was, but they really wanted them on that Misfits Action Park show. And I'm like, there's no fucking way I'm going to book Kembra Fowler at a water park in Vernon.
Sure.
No way.
Right. Yeah. Hey, you sent me this picture, right? We didn't show this during the show.
Yeah.
Is this one of yours? This is the Dino actually wearing some clothes, right?
Yeah. Rare photo of his weenus covered up there.
He's looks very different than he did, in the Hated movie and stuff. He really, definitely looks different. All right, that said, man, let's go get something to eat. Thanks, Joel. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care, everybody. Thanks, Drew. See you
My
around.
pleasure. All right. Well, there you have it. Another one in the books. The New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. Fantastic show. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. It was really it's not a Sunday. It's a Wednesday. And we'll be back on Sunday. Steven Messina, fresh from his eye surgery, will be with us. Thank you, Vincent. We'll see you Chiller in a couple of months, hopefully. And everybody else. A lot of the old guard came out for today's show. Thank you very much. Sean Brennan, thank you, brother. And just everybody else. Rich Zoller, Camille, just the whole gang. Great show, great time. We'll see you in a couple of days. Until next time. What can I tell you? 300 and fucking 65 shows into it. Could you believe it? Good Lord. Over 1 year of my life has been spent waking up and going, I have a show today. And it's been great. It's been great all along the way. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you soon. Until next time, tell your loved ones that you love them. It's important in this short life. And do good things, and good things will come to you.
Conditioned by indoctrination, conditioned by society. You're a victim of the digital age, a 21st